Islam does this. Let's rise and do our honors. It's the Moorish American Fair for those who don't know, or newcomers. Welcome our newcomers. We stand with our feet at a 90-degree angle. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah the Father of the universe.
Allah the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace.
Freedom.
And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. The risen holy prophet. Noble Jew Ali. Islam. Hotep. Yes. So, we just want to, before we even start, we want to give honors to the brothers and sisters yesterday for holding it up at the Francis Cress Welsing lecture over at York. Francis Cress Welsing. The big deal basically was that the Nation of Islam security, the fruits of Islam, the Nation of Gods and Earths, and the Moors did the security, right? And those three groups, also too, the Rastafarian school of thought was also involved in the security portion too, right? So we have 4 of like the top groups, organizations, whatever, coming together as a unified front, right? So this is something. This is where we're going with our activity, because now the Nation of Gods and Earths, now they're taking the lessons of the Prophet serious. The ones out here, there's Nation of Gods and Earths elsewhere that take it serious, but the ones out here, they understand what Noble Jew Ali brought. They recognize that there's something going on that they need to get on, and that they've been lacking.
So the Nation of God is the fruits of Islam?
Nation of God's the fruits of Islam, and then the Mufti.
Okay.
From our time.
Right,
and then right. So activity of the Moorish movement is taking place. The activity is stepping up. People are taking Noble Jew Ali a lot more serious, because everybody can see that systems falling, systems crashing, things are changing, people are leaving power, people are being brought into power in different levels of so-called government, etc. Right? So we're at that place now where it's unavoidable now. Noble Jew Ali is unavoidable. Before, you can sidestep, try to get around him. But now, it's unavoidable now. You have to either get down with what the Prophet brought, or perish, right? Or be just another, tumbleweed just blowing up there, right? So we just want to give honors to all the organizations for putting aside their group, whatever, So like, for example, the brother from the Rastafarians that was there, he's from the lack of a better term, sect of Bobo Shanti, right? So they always wear their turbans and all that type of stuff. He didn't have his turban on, right? So he can be unified with the other people that are, right? The Moors, they didn't have the feathers on, so they could be unified with everybody else that was there. Everybody had white shirt, black pants, so there was just a standard dress code. Once you see the white shirt, you already know those guys are security. Didn't matter what group they belong to or whatever like that, those guys were security, right? So I just wanted to put that out there, so people could know that things are happening with regard to Noble Jew Ali, and it's not only that it's happening, but it's something that's going to be of longevity, because the people who did the lecture, one of the brothers, Brother Kofi, that comes here, he was saying that we have to. This is not. We're not stopping here. You know what I mean? We're gonna start coming to the temple, because now we know that that's our building as well. It's not just something for the Moors because you guys wear feathers. This is a regency, embassy, consulate for anybody that thinks that their condition could be better, and they want to take the steps to make themselves better individuals so they can make their situation better. Right? Second thing we wanted to touch on, want to big up Brother No Shakir, Nile Valley Books, because every time that we're vending and he's vending, he always has something that he drops on me. So yesterday I got to pick up Nature Knows No Color Line by J.A. Rogers. Right? So we're just going to read a little section of this so we can get the perspective of what has been put out there and what we don't pay attention to, even though it's been put out there. Right? So this is Nature Knows No Color Line.
Who wrote that book?
J.A. Rogers. Copyright 1952. So since 52, this has been around, right? As far as J.A. Rogers is concerned, Nature Knows No Color Line comes at the right moment. The United Nations has announced a history of mankind going back to 300,000 BC, on which 1,000 of the world's leading historians are working. Care must be taken that the Negro isn't given the unusual treatment in this history. Nature Knows No Color Line will make such oversight more difficult. J.A. Rogers has engaged continuously in research on the Negro since 1915, published himself his first book, From Superman to Man, in 1917, after it was refused by the publishers, wrote and published his second book, As Nature Leads, in 1919, began writing for the Negro Press in 1920, and has been doing so since. In 1924, 25, and 26, toured the North and South, lecturing and selling From Superman to Man, 4th edition. In 1925, went to Europe for research in the libraries and museums there. In 1927, returned for research lasting 3 years, went to North Africa. In 1930, went on his own initiative to the coronation of Haile Selassie, who presented him with the coronation medal. The same year published The World's Greatest Men of African Descent. From 1930 to 1933, continued his researches in Europe. In 1934, published his 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro, which went into 19 editions. In 1930, 35, and 36, continued his researches in Egypt and the Sudan. In 1935, published his Real Facts About Ethiopia, and went the same year as war correspondent to Ethiopia for the Pittsburgh Courier. In 1940, began publication of his Sex and Race in 3 volumes. In 1947, published his World's Greatest Men of Color, 3000 BC to 1946 AD, in 2 volumes. In 1950, returned to Europe for further research on Nature Knows No Color Line. In 1930, was elected to membership in the Paris Society of Anthropology, and is now a member of the American Geographical Society, the Academy of Political Science, and the American Association for the Advancement of Science, listed in Who's Who in the East, Who's Who in New York, etc. His knowledge of Negro history represents but a small part of his general information on world history. So we go to page 145, we go to page 143, and the title is Negro Ancestry in the French, chapter 8. The Moors, as seen, invaded France in the 8th century and remained there until the 12th, when they were absorbed into the population. 5 centuries later, in 1609, This stock was reinforced by the entry of about 1 million more who came in on the invitation of Henry IV on their final expulsion from Spain. They settled in Auvergne, Auvergne, where their strain is still evident in the general population. There is a strong Negroid strain in many Auvergnese, said John Guthner. 1. Among those of Moorish stock were such noted figures as Bertrand du Guesclin, Charles Bernadotte, Napoleonic Marshal and King of Sweden, Joachim Murat, Napoleon's brother-in-law, and the King of Naples, and Pierre Laval, twice Premier of France. Laval was an Auvergnat and rather Negroid in appearance. In addition to the Moors who were the Negro slaves and Negro Levantines brought in by the Christians in the 13th century and earlier, Ethiopians, Moors, Turks, and Greeks furnished chiefly the crowd of slaves in the homes of the wealthy, says Mathurin. Later, when modern Negro slavery started in Portugal, about 1,440 the number of Negro slaves as well as free Negroes increased in France. The principal slave ports were Bordeaux and Nantes. Mathores says, dating from Henry IV, 1553 to 1610, the arrival of Negroes multiplied in France. They came in droves to fill in the gaps left in the population by the wars of Louis XIV. He adds, the maritime ports are not the only places we find mention of them. We find also records of baptisms of Negroes born in Africa in the registers of parishes of the interior. The ship captains, ambassadors, and admirals brought them to France and used them for various purposes. In Orleans, there was a college for these blacks and a street was named in their honor. During the 17th century, there were numerous in Paris. Most of the female slaves were white, says Laville. They were brought chiefly from the region of the Black Sea in northern Russia. Nantes and Bordeaux had many Negroes. In the Caveau de Saint Michael at Bordeaux, I saw the mummified bodies of 2 or 3, one of them La Negresse, for whom a small town was named, and has a railroad station in that name. In Toulouse, Deslaguier, a nobleman married Cassis, a Negro, whose descendants married into some of the leading families of the city. Mulatto descendants of Zenon, a Negro, still live in the town of Bonny-sur-Loire. Some are old men, others children, most of them a whitish yellow, their Negro strain showing most in their hair, nose, and lips. Zenon had came from Isle de Bourbon, Africa, passed for rich and many children by the white girls of the village. The Negroes were well received, especially in military circles. Marshal Saxe had a brigade of jet black Africans, commanded by Jean Hitton, a Negro, who served as his bodyguard. Mounted on white horses and colorfully uniformed, these blacks were one of the great sights of Paris and Versailles. They served with distinction in the Flanders War. And we'll stop there. Right? So, based on J.A. Rogers' writing style, right, you could see that our people being called Negroes, Black, Moors, etc., Ethiopians, Negresses, Africans, right? Like he's jumping around a lot when he's talking, right? But the first thing he says is the Moors. Like the first thing about our people and the identification of our people, the Moors, right? Now remember that being that, you know, we read in the beginning that published himself his first book From Superman to Man after it was refused by the publisher, right? So since 1915, Nature Knows No Color Line. You pass that around, right? So since 1915, there's been, and maybe even before that, there's been the purposeful omission of talking about the Moors. And if you do talk about the Moors, it has to be from third-party perspective. It can't be from the perspective of we're the Moors, right? Or us the Moors, or it always has to be, you know, the Moors of Spain, the Moors did this, the Moors did that, right? Because we spoke about this before too, about checking out Civil Alert Rising Blog Talk radio, because there was a show that Brother Taj was on the show, and he was talking about meeting Ivan Van Sertima and speaking with Ivan Van Sertima and asking him, you know, how come you just don't talk about the Moors? Like, why do you jump around when it comes to talking about the Moors? Oh, well, if you talk about the Moors, they basically blacklist you. They don't publish any of your books. They might deport you. They might, so, you know, in order to put a block on our history, they even attack our historians, right? And, you know, because they have no nationality, they have no defense when they get attacked. They just have to deal with the fact that, well, if I want to get money to put this book out, I'm going to have to go back. You know, that's why when you check all those books, they always have editors, right? They never edit their own stuff. Somebody's always editing their stuff. More than likely some European editing their stuff. And when they edit it, then they're putting in the Negro, the Black, the whatever. And, you know, Moors becomes just another term to call our people, not the actual name that our people are, right? Right? How it's connected to us, so we can actually, you know, accept more, just like we accept Black and Negro and African and all these other terms, right? Right? Because we know, based on the pattern out there of our people, that they call themselves everything but Moors. Like we're, you know, Nubians, and we're Sumerians, and we're ancient Comedans, and we're celestial beings from, you know, Sirius and all this stuff. But when it comes to Moors, there's not even utterance of Moors, and you only hear our people call themselves Moors if they know that we're Moors and we say Moors, or if you talk to Moors. Other than that, it's, you know, they use the synonyms, right? Because again, the point that he's making, that even though he said Moor, he's making the point that Moor is synonymous with all these other labels. The Black, the Negro, the African, the whatever. That's why he's using them in, you know, and that was just a page and a little bit. He's using them in the context that we already know what he's talking about. He's not using it to try to teach us, that, you know, we are Africans, or we are Negroes, or we already know that we're that.
Otherwise, you have to explain that you're certain things sometimes.
Exactly, right? So the synonymous nature of the different names that we called ourselves with the illegitimate name, right? But that's not out of a conspiracy or him trying to, you know, not call us by our right name. It's because of, in order to get the book published, you have to say Negro, black, colored, African. You can't say more, right? You can't put it out there that these people are known as Moors.
You know, it's interesting to think about it. No matter what, history always seems to go back and talk about things, right? Like even the Nazis will have, a movie on them. They'll have a movie on the Hungarians. They'll have a movie on. There are Moors.
Yeah.
You never see anything coming out of the Moors.
Right.
Ever.
And if it does come out, it's Martin Lawrence, Black Knight, jokey movie, right? It's true romance, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and it's never a complete movie from start to end about the Moors, right? And most of the time, if they are talking about the Moors, it's only about Spain. 711 AD to 1492, and then that's the gap. Right?
That's their way of fudging the history then.
Right.
In that period that they can then claim
everything else. Right? If they stick the Moors in 1492, 711 to 1492, and that's it, then anything else that belongs to the Moors, if they're not telling it, and majority of us don't learn unless a European says it.
Well, and
right?
that they've also, this is where all these book and stuff came to. They also got rid of
a lot of information, right?
Most of the evidence,
right?
So you don't even have an ability to get any reference, right?
Exactly.
The one that they want to give you,
right? So, and we spoke about Taj having that situation where he spoke with Ivan Van Sertima about it, and also there's a sister that we know that's in fashion school. Right? We spoke about this before, right? She's in fashion school right now. I seen her on the bus the other day, and she was telling me this sister Misha, right? So she was telling me that she was in class, and she's basically the best designer in her class, right? Sister, right? Class full of Europeans or whatever, right? So everybody's always, well, why is she always how come she's always the one picked for, how come, well, if we're, right, yeah, like, well, if we're gonna do a show, why don't we just call it the Misha show or whatever, just rambling, right? So they had this one class, and she was basically, trying to present the fact that, well, the Moors are the ones that brought fashion to the world. That's why there's a store called Moors and all that, and the suit people, because you go to the Moors when you want to dress the best. They had a quiz that day. The teacher failed her on the quiz, right? But the teacher failed her on the quiz so that she can come and talk to the teacher about it. When she goes to the teacher now, teacher's telling her, don't you ever bring up Moors in class again. Don't you ever bring up Moors in class again. Because if I talk about Moors, they're going to take away my teacher's degree and all that stuff. Right? This is what the teacher said. Fashion teacher. If you bring up Moors, they'll take away my teacher's certificates and all that. Right? And, I'm not willing to lose everything I worked for just because you want to talk about the Moors in class. Like Academy of Design or one of them spots there, like independent, fashion school, right?
Even
all in those places, right? So, and it wasn't a thing where the teacher was, like teacher basically gave her remarks back and all that. She just did that so she could come talk to her, because she knows she's gonna talk to her, because I know what I'm doing. Everything's right. Like, why you failed me? Right? So she could tell her behind closed doors about this whole, conspiracy against talking about the Moors. So then it turned into, okay, well, if you want to talk about this stuff, then anytime my door's open, come. But as far as class is concerned, don't even go there. right? So it's so it's something that they know, right? It's not a secret. They know, and we have to be diligent in our approach so that the story of the Moors doesn't get buried again. Because it's the same thing. The only people that really talk about the Moors from a first party perspective is the Moor, right? Knowledgeable Moors who study, know about their nationality and birthright, right? So we're gonna go to Treaty of Peace and Friendship book. This is rvbaypublications.com in association with Moors Order of the Round Table, right? And this is page 11. Social duties of citizens. The social and civic duties of the citizens of all nations or parties in treaty have and possess a duty and a responsibility to be competent, clear, and specific as to the truth and actuality of the identifications of the parties in the agreement. The natural people must be cognizant as to who is whom, and are held to be diligent in their responsibilities to their civic and social duties. The officials, leaders, and administrators of education or instruction are duty-bound by virtue of their titled positions of public trust to assure that such related civic studies are orderly dispensed among the citizenry. As such, erudite competence is needed and necessary for their primal support and demonstrable application. The citizens of the nations must be well prepared to take their places amongst the affairs of men. In relationship to the citizens or natural people's civic and social duties, we will apply primal reasoning when reading, studying, and or analyzing the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1787 between the Moors/Moroccan Empire. One must be Constitution literate. As an example, read the following excerpt from the Constitution for the United States Republic of North America. The Constitution and the treaty are lawfully co-joined and united, and so the contemporary United States Republic of North America, the corporate state of European Christian colonists, and the Moors of the land are bound in honor thereby. Consequently, the officers of the courts of the parties are inexplicably bound, and the laws, rules, or the constitutions of any of the several states of the United States to the contrary notwithstanding. The Moors are the natural people, natural citizens of the land, and are nationals by birthright and by sanguine principle. The citizens/members of the United States of North America are of a statutory character, quote unquote, naturalization, and are clothed with the privileges and rights of citizenship, conditioned by strict observance of the republican form of government established by the Constitution. See Article 4, Section 4. This is a political, juristic establishment of government under treaty and constitution agreement. One must be absolutely cognizant of the true world history and that the masses of the natural people have not been exposed to that history, as there was a concerted effort made by European sociologists to suppress true world history since about 1863 AD. The oft-oppression truths about nations, geographical and political, and about revealing facts involving the fundamental and connected relationships between the two distinct political entities involved in the peace treaty. The one, Moors of the Moroccan Empire, being the ancient sovereigns, and the latter, Europeans, colonists, in body politic union, being immigrants and a modern and derivative political appendage which was sanctioned by the Moroccan Empire to do commerce at, in, and on Moorish dominions. Moors are the nationals of the land, and the European immigrants are nationalized citizens of the United States and come under the Immigration Act of 1870. Consanguinity and birthrights of Moors. Consanguinity is derived from the Old Moorish Latin word consanguinitum and means relationship by descent to a common ancestor and essentially blood relationship. The Moors are direct sanguine descendants of the ancient Canaanite Moabites and are the true heirs apparent of the Amexem, north, south, central, and the adjoining islands. Moors are the rightful inheritors of the following archaic and survey specified geographical territories of the earth. The ancient pharaohs of Hikupata, Egypt, divided the lands of ancient Amexem among the extended families of the ancient ones, Canaanites/Moabites, established the boundaries and the lands of the Moorish sovereigns of northwest Amexem. They are as follows. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa. They were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their, this is Circle 7 Quran, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across the great Atlantis, even onto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexican and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. So that's the reason, that's the true reason why we don't hear about Moors from a first party perspective. Because if you hear about Moors from a first party perspective, they're talking about the actual heirs, the nationals, the consanguine individuals who basically have the right to do anything that they want to do, right, on this land, right? A majority of the quote-unquote historians that we've come to know and love and respect and all that, they might come from other places, but here's where they do majority of their work, right? When you look at like the Dr. Benz and these people, right? You know, the Sheikh Anta Diops and all these people, right? They're people who have received some finance, right, to tell the story about our people in book form, whatever, you know, lectures and all that. But, you know, they have an obligation to not talk about the Moors in the perspective that they should talk about them, right? Because a majority of them are slaves, right? You might be able to go places and go do lectures, charge 10,000 or whatever, but if you can't tell the truth, if you have to compromise your work in order to get $10,000 check, whatever it is that you get, in order to put out books, etc. Right? That's why in Nature No Color Line, he's telling me that I have to publish my own books. Because what I'm talking about, you know, like when you read like From Superman to Man, he's not talking about Negroes and all that in that book. He's telling you exactly what's up. Right? You know, there's no white people in that book. There's a European. You know, there's no black people in that book. It's Moors, right? Or the actual character in the book is a porter. You know, but he's a porter that was free, and he traveled around with, you know, some other people that he knew to get all the information that he had, and he just became a porter because nothing else for him to really do at that time. You know what I mean? Right? So when we when we start getting into, the law and constitution and all that type of stuff, so like they were mentioning Article 4, Article 4, Section 4, and they mentioned Article 6, right? So Article 4, Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. So being that everybody takes their oath on the Constitution, but then you have people in power called government or whatever, and they keep saying that this is a democracy, right? And democracy is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. That means that they're committing domestic violence against the Constitution. That means that they're not protecting the states against invasion, because democracy is invasion practices, right? That's why they never practice democracy over here. They say it out of their mouth, but they go to other countries and put democracy there, because those places are republics around the world, right? And they can, they're going to take an oath to the Constitution here, but other places that are republics, right? Which means that the foundation governments of the northwest Amexem, southwest Amexem, the Moroccan Empire. So we're talking about all the treaties, the Constitution and all that, right? Everybody in the world based their setting up their government on what we did over here, right? That's why everywhere else is a republic. That's why everywhere else has a 5-point star on their flag somewhere. Or they're utilizing the same colors, red, black, green, white, or blue in their flag, wherever it is you go in the world. Because all of them are copying what was done over here, right? So as soon as they say, democracy, already know that they're treasonous. Already know that you can't trust them. It's not personal, right? It's business, right? Because the majority of those democratic agents are members of private corporations that are pretending to be government, right? So that was Article 4, Section 4. And then Article 6 now says that all debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So anybody coming and saying that they're democracy when this is a republic, they're basically committing fraud, right? Because those things that they're talking about or laws that they're talking about are contrary to the Constitution. So it does not stand that law. That's why you know, always fight a ticket when you get a ticket. I don't care if it's 50,000.
Yeah, what if you already started paying on it if you were actually
If you already started paying, then,
finish paying it,
you know, well, not necessarily, but if you are taking those steps, then the best thing to do is start paying it differently. So you might wanna,
because I haven't touched it in like 2 years, right? And I got this back in a week.
yeah, right? Like once it gets to the part where you have to pay now, right? You're basically consenting to whatever went down.
Well, you can still go back and challenge even that.
Yeah, well, you can challenge it, but you're challenging it to the wicket, the window, because it's already.
And it was back in 2009, so I just consented to it because it was
You
like.
can go back in and ask to then, appeal that decision. What you're appealing on is the fact that traffic court, first of all, is fraud.
But see, but the thing with the appeal is that
Now you're just in it now.
the appeal process is, they have control over it, just like motion,
Yeah, but now you're in
right?
it and you can't do nothing.
Right? And then also too, if you get that far, it's also realizing that they never charged you with anything. You're not the person that has to pay. The corporation is the one that has to pay.
Okay, so then
And if you're saying that you're not a corporate entity, then, you know, you could leave it alone and not do anything. But that means it's still kind of there. So what in that situation, I would pay something, but I would pay it in a money order, right? $5, 10, 50, whatever. And with your payment, you submit a writ with your payment that you recognize that this is, explaining that, a writ of error. That there was an error with this, same thing like what you're saying. They're opposed to going to the appeal route and all that, because they'll just bounce you around and play games. But you send a writ, and in the writ, you're basically stating the position of, you're giving them this ransom, because, they're basically holding you for ransom, so you're going to write ransom on the money order, right? Put it in their name, and then you attach that to a writ of error, explaining what the error is, why you're not paying it anymore, why you didn't pay it, or why you choose not to pay it, right? Based on the fraud that's, been going on. Now, if they answer the writ, then they're agreeing to everything that you say, which they're not going to do. But if they don't answer the writ, they're agreeing to everything that you're saying, which is better off, because they default, right? And you're not.
Still puts you in a spot for certain stuff.
Well, this is where it comes into what is
Your own experience.
what is the sense of having that thing in the first place? Because you don't really need that stuff that day. You know what I mean? All they're doing is trying to make money for their private corporation. And if you choose not to deal with it, you're basically removing yourself from their private corporation. So the best thing to do is from then moving forward, exercise in the free national position. But then that means that, all the other benefits too, eventually all those will catch up, and, you're just going to be omitting yourself from all these contracts that you got yourself caught up in that you didn't know were contracts initially. Then now you know that it's a contract, but they're telling you owe 50,000, right?
Like for my school.
And all those things, and it's like we were talking about earlier, we're 100 years behind. So we're basically dealing with the fact that we had an opportunity to be free. We didn't take advantage of the opportunity to be free because of sellout leaders and all that. And then now we're realizing that, oh, they sold out, and we were supposed to be free from 1913, but we're 100 years behind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either, slow down and deal with it in a manner that, is a process, right? Or omit yourself altogether.
Yeah,
You know?
you have to be ready for one.
Yeah, and you got to be ready for one or the other. And I go with the position of doing the process opposed to doing anything, right? Because it's no different than, if you're cannibal all your life, carnivore all your life, and then you just realize, that, I shouldn't be eating meat or whatever. You're not just gonna cut off everything all at once.
Then you're dead.
Right? Like, you're gonna injure yourself, because your body has to adapt to that drastic change of you not eating meat. You know what I mean? You're gonna have days starving if you just cut everything. Okay, I'm cutting off pork, beef, chicken, whatever. I'm just eating veggies now and drinking smoothies or whatever. Yeah. That's it. You get injured. Because the process.
When what is it?
Stomach pain.
Yeah.
When you attach the money order, how much is the money order empty?
No, you're putting a amount in there, whatever amount that you think they deserve.
Okay.
Because
what I'm thinking for what you're saying is that rather than going back into the jurisdiction, you are sort of assenting to what they've said by sort of the letter of the law, by the spirit of it, by the spirit of the motion.
Right.
You are fulfilling that
part
of it.
Because you have an obligation because you contracted.
Okay, I've heard that I contracted this, I give some of this, but now I'm trying to say that I've realized that this contract and all this stuff is crap.
Right.
So now I'm drawing my line.
Now I'm drawing my line.
In the sand.
Right.
And now
and
you're
there's a way
talking to them, saying now proceed.
Now do what you have to do. Because now you're taking the necessary steps.
Line, if they step over it, then they put themselves in the illegal side.
Right.
If they don't step over it, then they have.
Then they're obviously saying that it's okay for you to do whatever it is that you're doing. If they don't reply, if you send them a money order, you're at ransom on it, and they cash it, then they're admitting that it's a ransom. Right? But if they don't cash it, they're admitting that they're running a fraud. Right? Because remember, Article 6. Anything contrary to the Constitution, like the Constitution doesn't say anything about you need a license to drive another. Or that they can fine you if you do something, right? Because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land.
What I'm sensing though is the same thing like sort of having a hardwood floor, which is let's say the Constitution, and then throwing a rug on top of that, which is democracy. Right. As long as they keep saying democracy or rug, and you keep agreeing to that, then they're just sort of standing on the rug,
right? Which
is still standing on the floor, which is what reality has to stand on anyways.
Exactly.
But then you've got everyone by admission, by agreement, or by not saying no to it, they are actively participating in it.
Right. Right. And the participation, them participating in it,
and the participation can come from even just not saying no to it.
Right.
Right. What it really is.
Which is what it really is.
Which I'm saying democracy and you're not saying anything.
Then that means you're down with democracy.
And that's it.
Right? Opposed to, just like the same thing. If they send you a letter, and you know that this letter is from some extortionist, right? And you don't open it, and you don't send it back, then you have it in your possession or you throw it in the garbage, they're assuming you opened it. And you saw something you didn't like and you're not replying. So they're going to go further. Or you can open it, and obviously if they send you something, they want to reply if they send you something. Right? And you can reply. None's not replying, it's just replying properly. Reply with some writs. Reply with challenging their authority.
Yeah, well, what I said is they can just keep throwing mud on the wall if you don't stop it. So, and they sort of just keep pushing ahead with their.
Yeah, but they can only push ahead if
They can only push.
if you don't
say
reply.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. At the end of it, it can become a very ugly situation by the end of it if they just keep pushing, right?
Yeah.
By the end of it, they can say, you owe us this money.
Yeah.
You haven't said no, and now we have our peace officers coming to collect on that debt.
Right.
Which is where they then kidnap you and put you in confinement to the debtor's prison. Right?
And again, it's you know, if we would have just a little bit of courage, just to challenge them on who they are, using what we know is the supreme law of the land. Forget what they say. They can say whatever. They can say they have debtor prisons and all that. But if they send you something in writing, they're expecting a reply. If they send you something in writing, guaranteed there's a part where they want you to sign, or they want you to call back, or they want some type of, they want something back. Right?
Oh, but also, I said, sometimes you get those letters saying, you don't get back to us in this amount of time, something else is going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, because they also have, see, that's where the law comes in too. They have a legal or lawful responsibility to inform you
Right.
of stuff that's going on too, right?
Right. Right. But again, right, let's look at
Like, for example, like these foreclosures, right? On someone's house or something, right? If you don't pay us in this period of time, we're coming to sell your house. At that point, you could then send them back saying something, you don't own this land, so who are you to be saying that to, right?
Yeah.
But they can continue to push ahead and then have the sheriff will come and enforce that.
Yeah.
That's because of
but the sheriff is only going to come and enforce if he gets an order.
Well, that's right. And that order is going to be coming from the public court as well.
Right. He's also
part of the whole.
Yeah. And if we don't call them for what they are, then what they do stands. But ultimately, no matter what it is that they say, if they don't leave it alone and run away from you, eventually it's gonna have to get heard in court. Mm-hmm. Which is why you send writs and you do it, because you're creating a paper trail for if something does happen and when it does go there, you have your evidence that, okay, I send them a writ, I send them a default judgment, I send them a writ of error, I send them blah blah, I send them ransom money order, whatever, and here's all my evidence.
Basically, again,
that they didn't reply to.
You're doing is setting up a huge trail to show that you continue to give them the chance to get out of
to get out of it. Yeah.
What was the name of that other document? Default
judgment. Default judgment. And all those you can get on rvbaypublications.com or Moorish National Public Record. And then those are just sites from that Moors have that they upload documents to that they send out to people.
The second one again, sorry?
Moorish Nation Public Record. Moorish Nation Public Record. Yeah. Right? Okay. Because also too, remember that it's not like they never thought that we would wake up. They thought we would be asleep forever. So, they got their feet up on the table, they're chilling and they're just, doing what they do. And then they get something back, from Kudro ex-relation, demanding them to do something, demanding them to answer questions, where they would never get that response before. Now they're put on the spot because you're demanding, just like they demand you, if you don't call back in 5 days or whatever, you're in default. Okay, you're putting the same obligation on them. Okay, well, if you don't call back, or if you don't write me back, then everything that I said in this writ is legit, and I'm going to take this to the next level if I don't hear from you. You know, more majority of the time, more, but they don't want to admit. You know, if they admit now, you have evidence from them that they agree with everything.
The thing is, they'll never hand themselves in on paper. Right? And
Never.
10% of the time, they'll catch you in court where there may be some admissions, but then again, you're looking to get from them transcripts and stuff that you will never.
Right. That they change and they can do whatever with the transcripts
and at the end of the day, you're just happy when they stop bothering you.
Right.
Right.
And ultimately, that's what you want. Really and truly, that's what we want. I don't want, you know, like if they give you.
Yeah, but what I think the issue is that really you should be unencumbered through life. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to fight them off just to be left alone.
Right.
That's the issue, right? They're going to tax you and put you in jail and profile you until you can basically beat us off with a stick.
And it comes back again. You know why? Because they're a bully.
Right.
They're a bully.
But also, like you say, the other part of it is that we have allowed this to go on. Our parents have allowed
hundreds of years.
Which is the real problem.
Thousands of years. You know, thousands of years. Thousands of years they've been making claims. Just make claims. Yeah, Christopher Columbus discovered America. Nobody never said nothing.
Well, the other part of
that's
it,
claim.
No, but here's what I said.
Right?
In a book that says Christopher Columbus, you have the book that says the Moors were always here.
Yeah.
I take away that book and give you this book.
Right.
You know, that's where I sense our problem has been, like you say, not connecting ourselves with our heritage.
Right. But then again too, like, you know, because even in people who are less Islam, even in people who are less there, less for the nation in the whole, Islam, right? Even for the ones who are there, not really in our favor, you know, like changing the books and whatever, right? Like for example, Christopher Columbus, right? They made the claim, right? Oh yeah, he discovered America, but then in his own records, you know, he's saying that he met people on the shore. You know what I mean? He's saying there was a mosque on the hill, right? That, you know, my interpreter had to go talk to the guys on the shore, you know, who spoke Arabic when they're in America. Like, why are these guys speaking Arabic in America? You know, but you know, again, you know, that's doing your own research, because you're not getting no Christopher Columbus logs when they do, you know, when they talk about that in school. All they're saying is, yo, he discovered it, and you know, that's it. You know, they're not gonna tell you about.
It's interesting. I was reading the book that the Mayflower.
Yeah.
The next book that the next ship that they pretend is where creation started. That's another sort of Christopher Columbus sort of theory.
Yeah,
sort of,
creation, right?
No. Those original families came over here and created this land, right?
Right.
But I also thought it was a few days ago that if, let's say, you go back a couple hundred years or 500-600 years, and this area was, let's say, the metropolis, right? This was the original place. Where would the outcasts go back to if they were looking to rebuild or to build up?
Yeah.
Right? If they were originally in the caves in Europe, what you do is you want to go back to the throne.
Right.
That's why they're here.
Yeah.
That's why everyone's here.
Exactly.
Because this is where it was.
Right.
I was in Niagara Falls a couple of days ago and I saw this mound, and I realized, like you said, anytime there's a mound anywhere, tell me where some of our shit was, that they come and co-opted, right? So you look at that and you realize that's why everyone's coming here. And this is where it was before the earthquake. Then it got sort of spread out. Like you say, if everything is connected to Moors, everyone has to come back home.
Right. But everyone wants to come here, and then the heirs want to leave. The heirs want to go back to Africa.
Well, that's what they've got us. That's where I was false knowledge.
They want to leave here. They want to leave the empire to go back to the kingdom, when they can just be in the empire. You know, just like you're saying, like, okay, well, if they have to go back home, where are they going to go to? Because, you know, who's going to go live in some caves in 2013, go live in some caves? Or are you going to, you know, just shut the hell up, get back to the foundation of what things were, and, live in harmony under the Moors, just like you did in Spain. It's not, we've been there, done that. They lived under us before, in harmony and all that. Were able to go to school, take showers, and paved streets and all that, right? But with the role reversal, it's up to us to make our claim, because they already made their claim. They did their part already. They already said, okay, well, this is democracy, and it's United States. They changed the maps and all that, but nobody's making any claim to counteract their claim. Right? It's like with the people claiming houses and all that stuff. Like, nothing's wrong with it, but we have to be mindful of what approach we're taking. Because if we're gonna, like what claim are we making? Like, for example, like I was talking with Sister Anita about this, right? Somebody's gonna go. The two people who got arrested, the two Moors that got caught up for claiming houses, they claimed some $3 million house, right? Okay, nothing wrong with claiming a house, but if you know that there's people in the ghetto and all that, and right down the street from the ghetto, there's 50 properties that's been sitting there for the past 10 years. Why don't you go claim those and fix those up and help out the less fortunate people, opposed to you, one individual, go claim $3 million house? That's gluttony to me. Because you could claim $50,000 houses and have less pressure than going and claiming well polished pillars in the front, driveway, whatever, 12 rooms, winding stairs and all that. Why are you claiming that? Why you claim some of these rundown properties over here, fix them up, and move some people into those?
And then how did you claim that?
Well, however the claim is made, right? My thing is, why are you claiming $3 million house? Why not claim
who did the house belong to before?
Oh, it's just a foreclosed property.
That's just sitting
there. That's just sitting there.
Actually, it belongs to the heirs of the land. The thing is, it's so confusing with these policies, what they think is law, because it's great confusion. What Brother Kruger was saying is, he did his homework and started off with these little projects and secured them and seen how the stepping stones, and then once you break that, it was just like law, where people use the law, so-called policy law, whatever, and then or something else to say, act such and such or whatever. This is how this took place. Then when it comes at the big stuff, it already set precedents, just like how Brother Kruger was trying to deal with the license, the right to travel. Now, for the record, even though there's all kinds of stuff that's going on the record, they know what's coming. The illusion is getting dissolved. But if you don't really believe and you keep on saying who's it belong to, you're still saying you don't know that belongs to you or your ancestors that gave you the right of your inheritance that we're reclaiming. And once we start reclaiming, we gotta know what we're reclaiming. And know how to put this in, so when we're up in front of these guys, adjudicators and stuff like this, who thinks that this is real, that this illusion, that we think that these people came from caves, well, they've been civilized for a long time too, because we civilized them for a long time. So they're civilized, more civilized than us right now.
Really and truly.
To be honest with you, but we're up here playing these games, and we're still trying to come up out of this, and we're still getting caught up in the nigger industry without really letting go of knowing how to work together as one functional organ.
It's like you just learn how to swim, and then you're going on the 50-foot, platform to go do backflips, Olympic diving. What are you talking about? How about you jump off the ledge a few times, and then you get to the springboard one,
Yes.
and then you go, up in level.
And then,
You know what I'm saying? Opposed to just, going, because yeah, people are gonna get on this information. Their, vibrations gonna be going, and they're gonna be headstrong, and they're, I know the law, and I know whatever. But it's a lot different when you have a gun in your face. Let me see stand up birthrights with officer guns drawn in your face. Like you're gonna be, pulling out nationality card then. You really gonna know what to say when he has his finger on the trigger. It's all fun and games when, guns in the holster and all that, but, you know what I mean? When it's 50 of them,
a SWAT team comes
SWAT
on
team
there,
comes,
they come around, put
kick
your gun
doors
on
in
your
and
head.
all that.
I can
Right?
be witness, and I'll testify to this because I've experienced it.
Right?
Seen it coming like slow motion, but what I'm trying to say is what Cujo's saying. This is what our problem is. We got to stop and start moving as a functioning entity. I think we're getting a lot of Asiatic mobile Moors are looking at this nationality as a business more than an inheritance.
Right.
Even
So
though
they're on their own individualism type shit.
Yes.
They want their own.
yes,
Right, exactly, yeah.
and so this is
Everybody
what's
wants to be the
happening.
man.
And then everybody starts not studying, but they got their own opinions because Allah, gives us common sense, but we all have to learn the steps. Just like you said, if I want to learn how to dive, I don't know how to swim, I gotta learn how to swim first. Underwater, I'll try that. Then on top water. Then if I want to come to the curve of the edge of the pool, I will try to just kind of leap in a little bit, kind of get my confidence up. Then I start diving. Like Cujo's saying. Then you go to once you get that mastered, you might go to a board. Then you might want to go to the springboard. Right? This is studying and learning. But I noticed, through my personal experiences, that a lot of people start believing, oh yeah, it's already known, like cellular memory opened up without even teaching it. Or even studying. Because now I'll show you an example. Learning how to read. If your parents don't know how to read and your grandparents don't know how to read, it's very likely the children don't know how to read that. Even though they can go to school. But if they can't pick it up some kind of way, the school teacher is trying to teach them, it gets very frustrating. But then whatever you pick up and then you realize you maybe try to shift that energy to teach them how to read so they can read the recipe and how to even make a cookie. To be successful, even how to be a carpenter. Amari knows he's still taking some courses sometimes when he's finished. But I'm just saying, no matter what stages, and I'm learning, I'm teaching myself. But this thing here, now coming in the right knowledge, you still got to have knowledge to back up and knowing what we're really doing. That's the compass and the square and the hammer and the chisel and the gavel. You got to put it together so when we do stand on our square, they can't knock us off our square. But if we're just pretending and saying, oh yes, I know this, I know that, this is this and that, I'm going to make up my own things and forget about them business.
Because they don't think it's a
Yeah,
foundation
like
set up
they don't
again.
know. They know what's up. They know the process, they know the procedure, they know the move we're gonna make before we make it.
Or even forget about what it really is. Like, we're just pretending, we can't pretend, we got to know, because, there's invisible rules. I didn't know what the visible rules were until I started studying what the rules of the nature is, of our law is. Like, and then we go against that and start making up our own stuff. That shut us down every time. Because you can't see it. It's something that's given to us. It's like, why are we even here? Arm, leg, arm, heel. What's the whole existence? What's the creation of this whole thing that we call Mars? It's invisible. It's like this air we breathe. It's invisible.
But we know it's there.
It's keeping us alive.
Yeah.
If it wasn't there, we'd be dead. But if we disrespect it and don't have any respect for it, we'll all be dead. And that's what's happening anyways. And that's nature itself. You want to go against it? Go against it. See what happens.
Like invisible rules. Like back in the day, you're not gonna go on, some block you never been to and not say what up to everybody who you see. Just walk through, I'm the man, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. You got your strut and all that. Some guys will pull you in a corner and deal with your case. Just because. Just because.
Yeah.
Who are you? Why are you walking around here like you own the place? Like, you know what I mean? You don't know you. You know what I'm saying? You know? And then when you do get to certain levels, you know, you go to certain places, you know, there's gonna be somebody who you know there. Like you say, oh yeah, I'm here to check so and so. They're like, okay, all right, all right, sure, no problem. You know what I mean? You're just up there on the corner, you're not in this house or whatever, in the back, you know, right? But it's like if we, because Drawley said study, right? And yeah, people are doing that, but you know, studying doesn't mean anything if you're not applying. You can study all you want, but if you're not putting some of this stuff into action to actually see what type of response you're gonna get from what you're studying, then it's like we're at the thing yesterday. We're at the event yesterday, and there was this brother there. What's the brother's name again? The one that the Muslim, Qasim, right? Somalian, you know, Somalian national, right? And we're just building. You know, we're just building, and he's just asking questions like, how come you guys have Quran on your book? You know, like there's only one Quran and there's only one prophet, and we're like Islam, right? You know, there's only one prophet and one. We're like, what are you talking about? Right? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's the only prophet he knows about. You know, but you know, there's more prophets than Muhammad.
And how did you
You know what I mean?
How did you keep right? No, there is not even a Muhammad.
Right. I mean, he didn't even get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't even get there. Right?
But this is what I'm saying too. What you're saying. Now, even yesterday, I see that Nation of Islam, they were suited up in bow tie. That's their the bow ties were fez, basically.
Right.
But we didn't have our fez on to let them know the crown.
Right.
The crown came off.
Well, what we were talking about earlier was that the reason why there was no feathers was because, you know, we're trying to show unity
Yes.
with the people who aren't there yet.
But if it was all white shirt, black pants, even the Islam,
right? It should have been the same. Right? It should have been the same. You know, but again, there's people that wanna, you know, they wanna put, you know, have the level like this instead of everything being on one.
That's why maybe next time we should never take off.
Right. Well, you know, it's.
No, I know.
It's one of those things. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to sacrifice. You know? Yeah, it's not an ego thing or nothing like that. You know what I mean? Because you know, we could show you know, like if we go to, you know, if we go to convention picture.
Yes. Right.
We go to convention picture. This is 1928, and there's nothing but bow ties up in that. That's before Nation of Islam. And there's brothers in there with bow ties on.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Right?
I'm not taking that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
They made us,
you know,
say, take the crown off.
But then, you know, it shows who's bigger.
Yes, I know.
You know what I mean? Who's willing to sacrifice for the good of the whole?
Yes.
Opposed to, you know, everybody trying to show their position. Okay, well, these guys have their friends on, and these guys have their, you know, Nation of Gods and Earth's buttons and shirts or whatever, and these guys have their bow ties, and you know, these guys have, you know, it's just taking it to a level where, you know, okay, well, you know, let's all be on one, because you know, we already know we got superior knowledge. You know, the Moors, I mean, we're family anyway. But you know, the Moors are really, that's where it's at. You know what I mean? There ain't nobody where we're at. Everybody else they're trying to get where we're at. They could be where we're at, but you know, ego and, you know, protecting teachers and all this type of stuff. Okay, you know. But yeah, like, you know, like we're talking with the Nation of God's Earth, and you know, I told the brother, yo, like, you guys don't have to stop being Nation of God's Earth. Just you put some Ellen Bays on your Shabazz and all that. That's a good idea. You know, that's like, I'm like, like, you know what I mean? Why not? Why not go that route? I'm not telling you don't be Nation of God's Earth. We're saying take the Circle 7 and take whatever you guys have and read those books together and find the connecting points, you know what I mean? And now say that you're a nation of God's earth. Where you got some nation of God's earth nationality cards and stuff like that. And we got the Moroccan flag, just like we have the stars and stripes. That's not ours. That's the amity flag. That's just the flag just to show that, you know, we're in commerce, right? You know, you're giving Europeans permission. You know, you got your Moroccan flag and you got your NOI flag.
Now you know your
You know,
nationality.
you got your Moroccan flag and you got your universal flag. You got your Moroccan flag and you got your red, black, green, black power flag or whatever. You know, just to show that you actually know what it means to be part of a nation.
This is where our nation came
This is
up.
where the nation came out of.
And then when you come to the census, you'll come out of the other things.
Right? Yeah. Right? The other thing too, since we're dealing with it, is a lot of what we go through, what we deal with, is because of not knowing how to live within contract. You know, having to contract, and then later, like much later, you know, when they start finding you and start imposing things on you that you're saying, oh yeah, this is abuse and whatever, it's because you didn't know how to live in the contract. If you know how to live in the contract, you wouldn't even be in the situation that you're in the first place, right? So, how to live within contracts. Go to you can talk to Grand Chief Nature El Bey to get his little booklet. MoorishGuidepost.com. And okay, so the nature or how to live within contracts. The nature of living within contracts involves understanding what a contract is. What is a contract based on? In order to live according to anything, you have to understand what it is. You understand what it is in your life according to why, what constitutes it, and what is the nature of it. When you deal with the nature of something, you are dealing with the origin of it, the beginning. Contract is a very broad word because everything we do in life is based on contracts, and all contracts make law. Everything is based on a covenant, right? So this is why we go back to, you know, the Constitution, because that's a contract. Why we go back to Treaty of Peace and Friendship, because that's a contract. So why we go back to Moorish American Prayer, because that's a contract. You know, these are there's all these covenants, agreements, arrangements that we are taking part in every single day, but we don't recognize that they're contracts. Just like when we're reading the Nature El Bey MSTONLINE and we hear black, African, you know, Negro, you know, nigger, and but we don't recognize that they're saying Moors. They're just using all the synonyms of Moor instead of saying Moor, the original. They're always using synonyms to describe us, right? So just like that, everything is contract. But once we understand what contract is, what contract's not, how contracts work, the law that govern contracts, how to deal with them, whatever, as soon as you talk with somebody, you already know whether they're trying to put you in slavery, whether they're your friend, whether they, you know what I mean, they're trying to set you up when you're on the corner, kick your ass or whatever. Like, it would just be because you would understand what contract is. You know what contract is.
It's like a verbal contract.
Right.
Right, that, even though you didn't sign anything, that's what I was talking about, the invisible rules.
Right. Exactly, yeah. Invisible rules, contract. You know, that they might not be on paper or whatever, but you know that, you know, you go to this neighborhood, you know, those guys on the corner, as soon as you walk in, on the right, and they're looking at you, you know, they're expecting you to nod or say what's up or do something. That is basically just walk past them. You know, when you're not from there, they know you're not from there. That's a contract, right? And you have a choice, right? So, Black's Law Dictionary, 7th edition. Right? Contract, defined, noun. An agreement between two or more parties creating obligations that are enforceable or otherwise recognizable at law, and binding contract. The writing that sets forth such an agreement. The contract is valid if valid under the law of the residence of the party wishing to enforce the contract. The term contract has been used differently to refer to three different things. One, the series of operative acts by a party resulting in new legal relations. Two, the physical document executed by the parties as lasting evidence of having performed the necessary operative acts and also as operative fact in itself. Three, the legal relations resulting from the operative acts consisting of rights or right in persona and their corresponding duties accompanied by certain powers, privileges, and immunities. The sum of these legal relations are often referred to as an obligation. The present editor prefers to define contract in the sense: a contract is a promise or set of promises for breach of which the law gives a remedy, or the performance for which the law is somewhat recognizes a duty. Getting back to the nature of a contract, some are enforceable by promise, by agreement of two parties, as it's specified. Some contracts are not in writing. Certain inalienable and substantive rights are not written, only as a reference. We use documents agreed upon by the people as a reference to the rights endowed by a creator. But the nature of it is not 100% written. Those are called inalienable rights, common law rights. Those are the same rights that are protected and secured by the international agreements such as national constitutions, treaties, etc. When you enter into a contract, first understand where does it derive from and who agreed to it, because the agreement equals acceptance, which binds the contract. Contracts have three components making it binding or valid. We'll read this part again. When you enter into a contract, first understand where does it derive from and who agreed to it, because the agreement equals acceptance, which binds the contract. So the good example that we use is for any one of the cards that we have in our pocket for whatever. Every single time we fill out one of those cards, it's off of some wall, it's sitting on some table or whatever, and then we pick it up and then we sign it. And then we're the only ones that sign it, nobody else signs it. Right? That's us. That's the agreement equaling acceptance, which is binding the contract, because we chose to go fill it out and sign it without even questioning, okay, well, who are these people, right? Like, who is Visa? Who are these guys? Like, we're just going to take something from them and send it in the mail or whatever, sign it, send it back to them, right? Who are they? You know, what's their history? You know, why are you even sending this to me? You know, the quote unquote terms and conditions in the fine print that we never read, you know, but then, you know, when it's time to pay, we're complaining that, you know, 500% interest. Well, it said that in that same paper that you just signed, and because you signed it, you agreed that 500% interest, you know, you can take it away whenever we want. You can, you know, you're going to call when you have a problem and you're not going to get through because you're calling China because, you know, we outsource all our business, whatever, right? All contracts is based on, when you enter into it, understanding who it is, where it is, what it is. That's why, you know, Moors push, don't just sign stuff. Read it, then read it again, then read it again, and then get out your law dictionary and then go through it and look up anything that you don't know, any word that you don't know, look it up. So you can be clear as to what this thing is that you're signing, regardless of where it comes from, even if it comes from another Moor. You're still gonna pull out your law dictionary, you're gonna read it, check it over. You know, it's just like, for example, one of the Moors was having a conversation with somebody, and then they sent him a document, right? And at the end of the document, it said that the person who sent the document is the executor of the document, which means that they're the ones that are, you know, fully responsible, and they have absolute authority from the person signing to do whatever it is that they want to do, right? Which made bells go off because, you know, if I'm signing this, then I'm the executor. Why? How are you the executor of something that I'm signing, right? You know, and then when challenge the person on it, and then now the person doesn't want to talk, don't want to have no conversations, can't get them on the phone, no email replies or whatever, because you're letting them know that, you know, you're not gonna, you know, you're not gonna game me. Because I study, right? I read stuff, I look stuff up, right? So just to say, when you enter into contracts, first understand where does it derive from and who agreed to it, right? Because we can get a contract and think that, okay, well, Visa is sending this to me, so I guess my contract is Visa, but don't know that Visa's contracted with some other guy out there in order to even get this paper to me that I'm going to go sign, right? And we don't even consider who that unseen party is, right?
Post office has to be a party?
They're a party if, you know, there's a little red thing on the envelope, right? That's pretty much that's their seal of approval that, you know, we're part of this contract, because, you know, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to the post office to go send it back to Visa, right? But what, you know, like for example, we don't recognize that, you know, the red meter thing, that's not a stamp. So how come they're sending me this thing with the red meter thing or a black meter or whatever, something in the little corner, the right corner? But then when I send something back to them, I have to actually go and get a stamp, you know, lick it and put it on. But the thing that came to me never had a stamp on it. It was just pretty much just an envelope, right? Because they have a contract that, okay, well, if you send, you know, 50,000 of these, you can just use the red meter thing. You don't have to use a stamp, right? So they'll say, okay, well, we want to send 50 million of these. You know, what kind of deal could we get for that? You know, we'll give you red stamp stuff forever. If you're good, because, you know what I mean? Because we know that we're going to get the money back from the people who's sending this back to you. You don't have to get it from you. The people who's sending this back, they're going to go pay 50 cents. 50 cents times 50 million. Right? That they never had to pay 50 million to send it out. They just got their little red thing. Right? So contracts have three separate components making it binding or valid. One, offer. Someone has to present the terms and conditions of the agreement. You cannot agree to something you do not understand. Law allows a remedy to say yes and no. Knowing the full terms and conditions makes the offer clear. The creditor usually is the offerer, which goes into commercial contracting. Right? So the creditor is usually the offerer. Now, if the creditor is the offerer, right, and it comes back again to the word of the Constitution again, right? The creditor is the offerer, right? So we go to Article 1, Article 1, Section 10, right? No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. So no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, coin money, or emit bills of credit. So no state can do that. So if the state is the superior jurisdiction to the companies that are registered with the state, then that means no companies they can't emit bills of credit either. And if they do emit bills of credit, then that's fraud. Well,
This is exactly.
who's right? So you go back to the offer, right? The creditor usually is the offerer. Is Visa a creditor? Is MasterCard a creditor? Right? They claim that they're creditors, but they're not creditors because they don't have any gold or silver backing that credit that they're claiming that they're giving people. Right? So they're running a fraud. And then people are contracting with them, assuming that they're the creditor. When the credit really comes from you signing the document, because your signature is really what creates the credit that they give you. Whatever credit it is. Right? The energy. And depending on your signature would depend on how much credit you get.
This is why people look at people's signatures to see if it really was the person that signed it.
Right.
You might have a few signatures, right?
Or when you go when you go see your favorite entertainer, ball star or whatever, you don't ask them for their signature.
Autograph.
You ask them for their autograph. And then they're gonna say, oh yeah, autograph is worth, 50 million because that came from this guy. Well, how's the autograph worth 50 million when the signature is really what, right? But again, it comes back to that whole, the whole game that they play, contract. Once you sign something, that's a contract, right? But, if they give you autograph, are they signing?
No.
Right? So that has no value. That just scribbles on a paper. If you go check his checks or all his ID or whatever, and you match that up with the thing that he gave you, sign the ball and sign the jersey or whatever, those things are matching up. Right? Two different arenas. Right? So one, again, offer. Someone has to present the terms and conditions of the agreement. You cannot agree to something you do not understand. Right? Come back again to that fine print that you never read. Right? Which means we don't get it. Right? But we're gonna go sign that. Oh yeah, we're done with it. So let's sign it.
And that's what everybody does.
And that's what everybody's doing. When you can't agree to something you don't understand. You can't agree to something you don't understand.
And that comes from not knowing what words mean.
Exactly.
If we're running around here and say, oh, I understand, okay, great. Somebody's over you.
Right.
And if you understand,
You
then that
understand.
means
That means you're under.
there's somebody, there's an overseer over you.
Right.
To be under instead of overstanding.
Right.
And then we wouldn't get in this, and then we did overstand, we start charging them.
Exactly. Right. Knowing the full terms and conditions makes the offer clear. The creditor usually is the offerer, which goes into commercial contracting. So the creditor is usually the offerer. 2. Acceptance or agreement. In modern days is the signature, which usually binds the agreement aspect of the contract. That's what we just talked about. So you contract on paper, it has to be signed. Then it has to be signed by both parties.
So like what happens when you change the signature? One time I went to the bank and I had an old signature that I was using, but I didn't really know what I was doing, right? So I didn't really pay attention to the signature.
Right.
And then after they asked me if they signed it, and I was like, I just signed it with a different signature. And then they're like, oh, is this your signature right here?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? I was confused.
Yeah.
And they had to do something. They
Yeah. Right?
But you're allowed to change.
Yeah.
You can use any signature or autograph you want.
You just have to tell them, yeah, that's what I did.
That's what I do, because I change it every time. Mine's different every single time.
Yeah,
Right.
like there's not every single time the same thing.
Even if you just want to use a line, that's my signature.
But it's what you say that it is. Because it's yours. Like, right? Because again too, like, that's why most times if you do sign something, they have carbon sheet underneath so that it prints out so they get a copy so that they can match up just like what they did with you. Oh, well, we gotta go in the back check, make sure that this is really your signature or whatever, because we have the file so when you open the account that what your signature is. But then if you change it, you give them notice, I changed my signature, then they let you fill out another one of those things, and then they get rid of that one, and then they put the new one in, But again, too, like sometimes it's like, like let's say you had your account for 10 years, and the teller, you could say ... and call that signature, and they'll still stamp your paper and say that that's your signature. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to be out of the signature things. It's that's something in the past. They're going for
Biometric signature.
Yeah. It's all electronic and digital.
Electronic signature.
Having a chip or a fingerprint.
Yeah, fingerprint, right? And if they go that route, then that's letting you know that that's the real signature, your fingerprint.
Or your eye.
That's why if you go on some of those same websites, Moorish National Public Records, you'll see writs, right? Or written documents that people send out, and at the end of it, they put their thumbprint on it. Because that identifies who you are more than a scribble on a paper. You know what I mean? So you can even use that to seal your document. You know what I mean? Just put your thumbprint on there. Right? 3, consideration or substance. Whatever it is to be traded, property, merchandise, money, Federal Reserve notes, etc. Whatever you are agreeing is the subject of the contract and is the consideration or benefit of agreeing to the contract. If I agree to buy your car for $500 Federal Reserve notes, then the Federal Reserve notes becomes the consideration. Is that contract a valid or legal contract? Everything we do is based on contract, some type of agreement somewhere. All contracts are enforceable by the tribunal system set in government, whether de jure or de facto. It is all based on contract. So once again, contracts have 3 separate components making it binding or valid. 1, offer. Someone has to present the terms and contracts of the agreement. You cannot agree to something you do not understand. Law allows a remedy to say yes or no. Knowing the full terms and conditions makes the offer clear. The creditor usually is the offerer, which goes into commercial contracting. 2, acceptance or agreement. In modern days, the signature usually binds the agreement aspect of the contract. 3, consideration or substance. Whatever is to be traded, property, merchandise, money, Federal Reserve notes, etc. Whatever you're agreeing is the subject of the contract and is the consideration or benefit of agreeing to the contract. If I agree to buy your car for 500 Federal Reserve notes, then the Federal Reserve notes becomes the consideration. Is that contract a valid or a legal contract? Everything we do is based on contract, some type of agreement somewhere. All contracts are enforceable by the tribunal system set in government, whether de jure or de facto. It is all based on contract. So for example, if you agree to have a license. If you agree to have a license, what's attached to the license is the Highway Traffic Act. Now they don't tell you about that part. They make you think that, you know, you getting the license is based on, you know, your identification for when you're traveling, driving, or whatever, so you can show this as ID wherever you go, you know, whatever, right? But they're not gonna say that, you know, if you violate the quote unquote rules of the road, they're gonna have the Highway Traffic Act as the contract, right? The consideration or the offer is that card, but the contract is the Highway Traffic Act, which already, because it's an act, it's not law. It falls into Article 6 of the Constitution. The judges in every state shall be bound thereby anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Right? So, being that the Constitution says that you have a right to life, liberty, and traveling, driving, or whatever is under liberty, that means it's a right. That you can't buy that or, you know what I mean, contract that or anything like that. You already have the right to drive, travel, or whatever, right? And by you going and getting the license or social insurance card or health card or whatever, you're saying that you want a privilege from these people who are claiming to be the government, the state, whatever, when they're not really that. They're just, you know, no different than, you know, we don't go around treating Federal Express like government because they call themselves federal. You know that that's just, you know, mailing people and that's all that they are.
Right? Basically, we're saying, we're admitting that there are overseers.
Right.
We got to go ask our overseers, whether we're toward our masters in our own land, can we move? Can we shit? Can we drink? Can we eat? What can we do? Do we need this to travel around to somebody, you know, that has nothing to do with anything? But they got us so bad, they think it's really real.
Right.
Like you're gonna stop me from going down the road to go fetch me some water.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. You don't need a license to go get water on the well.
Well,
right?
I drove for 10 years without any license. After they took my license and stuff and insurance, I kept on driving. Catch me if you can.
That's what I was
Catch me if you can. Can you catch me? I'm going to keep driving anyways.
Right.
Well, you're not driving.
Yeah, I'm traveling, but I'm just saying at the same time.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, boy. Islam, I like that. Islam, yeah. But the thing is, hey, it is what it is. And the only thing it is this everybody else around you starts believing that this is that, and then they start causing irritation and frustration in your life because you're being who you're supposed to be, and they're trying to tell you that you're not supposed to be that way in your own family.
And then as long as you can understand why you got to
Right.
And I don't mean immediate family. I'm talking about the Asiatic family.
Yeah. Right. So de jure, according to law, by right, de facto, exercising power or serving a function without being legally or officially established. So majority of the contracts that we get into are de facto contracts because there's hidden things in them. De facto is exercising power or serving a function without being legally or officially established. So you go on the Governor General of Canada website, it says that the Governor General is Canada's de facto serving a function without being legally or officially established.
So it's just pretending.
For pretending.
It's like
Pretending to have power when you don't have any.
Legally or
Officially established. Right?
But what gives it the pretend power, like the boogeyman in the closet or underneath the bed, this not knowing, thank you.
Right.
That's where they don't study. Thank you, Sam. Islam.
Right? So again, the jure of right, legitimate, lawful, by right and just title. In this sense, it is the contrary of de facto. It may also be contrasted with de gratia, in which case it means as a matter of right, as de gratia means by grace or favor. De facto, in fact, indeed, actually. This phase is used to characterize an officer, a government, a past action, or a state of affairs which exists actually and must be accepted for all practical purposes, but which is illegal or illegitimate. In this sense, it is the contrary of de jure, which means rightful, legitimate, just, or constitutional. Thus, an officer, king, or government de facto is one which is in actual possession of the office or supreme power, but by usurpation. Right? So, to the Governor General of Canada on their website says that they're Canada's de facto head of state. On the website, they say that. Now, the Governor General of Canada is Canada's de facto head of state, which means that they're illegal and they're illegitimate.
If I would, 5 years before the time.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know what de facto means when you go up in there.
Exactly. Now this is what happens. This is why they look at adults, so-called adults, as minors,
Right?
not knowing. You don't know, you're gonna study, you don't know what's going on and what words mean and everything. They can get away with that because the boogeyman's in the closet to a 60, 89-year-old man.
Right.
And he's running. Because the boogeyman's really there. And you know who the boogeyman is, the 60, 90-year-old men and women? The devil. Not talking about like children, because we know they're minors. So they will get scared when they watch a scary movie and look under the bed. We all did it, you know what I mean? Look in the closet, children, minors. But then when you grow up, I'm not afraid of the dark no more. But the devil. The devil.
That's a little different.
I gotta go to church and get saved.
That is again?
I gotta go to church and get saved. But what are we getting saved?
Grand Puba.
Yeah, but what are we getting saved from? And then they say, we want to convert you. You see what I mean? And we're supposed to be adults. We're supposed to be in full light of knowledge, no more minors. But everybody's running around here not knowing as a minor. The boogeyman's gone, grew up with that. But the devil didn't know, because we don't even know what a demon or a devil is. We want to blame some Albion, say he's the devil.
Kill the white man.
You know what I mean? We can blame them for everything. But then when we try to, as Asiatic Moors here, trying to wake up our family and right knowledge, they're going to reject it and vibrate on their lower self, the real devil.
The real devil.
Islam.
Right. Any contract question?
How about like one please tell your rights after the computer? You know what I mean? Like that what they're doing correct. Like say if you're getting arrested and then they ask you know your rights and then you're like no or whatever, you say whatever. Then you have the right to remain silent and whatever you say. Is that correct? So when they're doing it after the handcuffing, so they can say anything before the handcuffing?
Right. Yeah. Ultimately they shouldn't. But we'll go to terminology again. So just by calling them police, you gave them the authority to handcuff you, arrest you, say stuff that they don't want to say or whatever.
There are peace officers
You know,
to keep the peace for
right?
the public, right?
No, and even them being peace officers is, you know, you're walking a fine line kind of, because they're still not officers.
So what would you say?
Public servant.
Public servant. That's what I
And they get
was
mad
saying
when you
at
call
the
them
time.
public servant. They get mad.
You know.
They get mad. Because basically you're telling them that you're a slave.
And then it
And
depends
you're
on
supposed to
the
listen to,
situation
you know what I
they're
mean?
napping you for.
Yeah.
See how you can get yourself out of it.
Right? The majority of people that's how they get from the jump. Right? They address them as officers. So, you know, they're illegitimate, right? They're de facto, but we're thinking that they're de jure because they copied the sheriff, who's the real police officer, and they have a badge and a hat and uniform, whatever. So we think, well, okay, you know, how come,
They're following the same policy.
yeah, how come like, you know, firemen wear uniform, they don't call them officer, right? You know,
And they're serving the public.
and they're serving the public too.
So when they want to talk to you, even addressing them as like stuff making a contract, right?
Exactly. Well, I wouldn't ignore them because, you know, it's like we were telling with the brother yesterday, with the, well, what kind of Muslims are you guys? You know, I see you guys, do you guys do salat every day? You know, because we say, no, we don't do salat because as soon as you bend down, that's when they take your head. Right? So we don't do salat. We only do salat in times of distress. You know, like that's what we learned out of chamber. You know, so you don't turn your back on people who are your enemy or threats, or, you know, if they got a weapon and you don't have a weapon, the last thing you want to do is turn your back on those guys. You know what I mean? You want to talk to them firm. You want to talk to them like you're sure you know what you're talking about. You know, and you know, like there's people in here who could vouch. You know that you have to talk to them firm. You can't talk to them on, you know, because those man's feed off weakness.
One would want to like have knowledge before even trying to like step up to
Right,
like,
exactly.
Hey, you're just public service.
Right, right.
You want to have
You know.
knowledge and back up like what you're saying.
Right, right. You know, and then that just comes with, you know, study and, you know, being around the right people who are doing that. You know what I mean? It's like with Brother Tallahassee. You know, like it's not nothing to him to get stopped with license, without license, or whatever, because he's gonna talk to them like public servant all the time, just because, you know, that's what they are. You know, then you have some people who, you know, just give them power. You got license, you got insurance, yeah, here's the insurance. You know, their stuff could be straight, they're still gonna get a ticket. And then they're gonna argue about, oh yeah, you know, racial profiling, and they're just taking advantage of their power. Yeah, well, you gave it to them. Anybody you give power to, they're gonna take advantage of it. You know, especially if they know that you're weaker. You know what I mean? More so weaker intellectually than, you know, like physical. You know, but they feed off of incompetence. They feed off that. They feed off of people not knowing the law, so that they can abuse the law. So their whole purpose is to abuse the law. That's all they want to do. Abuse the law, because they're de facto. And their position isn't, you know, like I have brethren that work for them. You know, and they tell me straight, like, yo, what you guys are doing, you guys have the whole court talking about, you guys come to court, the whole court talking about you guys all day. All day. Every lunch break, whatever, that, yo, you see those guys, you see what happened with those guys, came here, blah, blah, blah. Who are they? What are they doing? Look. Right? Like, this is like from personal experience. Like, talking to people who have those jobs. You know what I mean? That will just be there. Just be at court one day, you know, and just see stuff happen. You know? And then one day go to court when the Moors go into court and see what happens. The whole vibration of the court changed for the whole day. Like all day, it's like a totally different frequency.
I think one thing in the board, the judge about the end.
Yeah.
At the end of it all.
Right.
They keep it all really well great. The judge about the next, and then the guy that was standing, I don't know what you would call it, but he was standing. He was like, all right, so the judge is left or whatnot. I call court sessions all over.
Yeah. But then again, like it's just like the example that we use is we always go back in the day because stuff always happened back in the day, right? So you might go to a club or something, and there'll be two Europeans fighting, right? Bloody up, smash each other with bottles, all that stuff. When police come, they're hugging each other, both of them are drunk, walking on the street together. Oh no, this is just my cousin, we had a little argument with. And police is down with it, like, okay, yeah, no problem, but let two brothers be kicking each other's ass and then try to play like, oh yeah, this is my cousin, whatever. Both of them getting arrested. Both of them gotta spend time in the, drunk tank, whatever, right? And they got court the next day, right? So don't be I don't want to say fooled, but be mindful of when you watch those stuff and it's Europeans exercising it. You know what I mean? Because if another European stopping them, more than likely, that's their boy. You know what I mean? And they're gonna work in favor with their, family. Scottish, French, English, British, Irish, whatever. They'll work with their own to make things look good, to make it look like, yeah, we got this. You know what I'm saying? And then you have ones who are on our side that are down with, the de facto. That's going to be doing the exact same thing. Just like the one Moors in court. You seen that one? Right. Right? So Moors in court now, you have same thing, brothers, Moors, feathers on and all that. And they're talking stuff to the judge and say, yeah, you don't have authority, blah, blah, blah. I ain't seen no judge bowing to them. Yeah, she was trying to continue going on with it, right? But why? Because we're more of a threat having this information than some European having this information. Because if they give it up to us, that okay, yeah, you guys are the power, so we're gonna back off or whatever. They have to either come in this building, go upstairs, fill out, forms and stuff like that, be members of this, or go back to Europe. That's their only option. Because there's no government here. Canada's not a government, it's a private corporation, right? The Queen doesn't have no jurisdiction here because this is not Europe, right? The Queen being on the money, that's not really money. That's just paper that they're printing. That's counterfeit, right? The real money is gold and silver, but they have Oliver, all these guys getting that out of people's circulation who are Europeans, right? You know what I mean? And everybody's going to go give them their gold to go get paper, right? You know what I'm saying?
I see one down the street.
Yeah, it's one right down the street.
And it's like
yeah.
Big image of a woman who's like giving like the gold is right in front of her, but then she has like a paper in her hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Because everybody knows, right? Everybody knows that the time is coming where we have to step up, right? Quote unquote black people have to step up. They ought to get out of the mentality that they have and raise their vibration. Because it's over for those people if they don't get on what the Moors are on. It's not, it's nothing, it's not a personal ego thing or whatever, but if we check the track record, from 1900s to now, us being part of any organization, group, whatever, has done nothing for our people. Nothing at all, whatsoever. Matter of fact, we're on a decline right now. social, just like Francis Cresswell talked about, economically, socially, you go down the list. We're at the bottom. We're at the bottom of everything right now. Only thing we're at top of is consumer. How we the top consumer, but we claim we have no money? We don't have money, but we're the top consumer. We buy more than anybody. And we buy more from other people than our own than anybody. And then everybody else is only buying their own. And we never buy our own. We got books packed up. We were talking with the brother yesterday. Brother came with books. This man goes around, man has bad hip and all that. You know what I mean? Lugging, some bins of books. And then he's going to set up all his books on the table. And he's going to leave with all them books. But, everybody has newest Nikes on. Everybody has the newest starter cap. You know what I mean? Freaking flip back shit. Newest jacket, hoodies, and all that. You know what I mean? Everybody has got weed in their pocket to smoke. Everybody got blunts backwards. That was a personal. You pay dues. Don't worry. Don't worry. You pay dues. Don't worry. Right? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
I realize a part of all that stuff is to do with the fact that without an identity, you're trying to find one, right?
Right.
So that's why you're buying up.
And you're buying up all
their corporate logo stuff.
Everything.
You don't have your own logo.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, when they start to profile you on that, right?
Right? Because you're gonna get profiled. When you dress the part, you dress the nigger part, guaranteed somebody's gonna be knocking your door. You know what I mean? Somebody's gonna tell you, oh well, I heard the baby crying next door. I think that they're abusing their child over there. You know what I mean? But then, European down the hall, whose child, 5-year-olds, out in the street running around by themselves till midnight, nobody's not calling on them. Nobody's not calling CS on them. Right? But they hear a little noise next door by the niggers. And they're quick to call. And then people are going to come running to come take those youths out of that house. Put them in some foster care or whatever. Same thing you're saying. Start lack of identity. So, and that's where we come in. Because we're basically coming to say, well, okay, you know what? Just check the track record. It's not even hidden. Just check the track record of our people, all these organizations that they belong to from A to Z. Right? And let me know when you find one that has been a benefit to our people. Just one that's been a benefit. I'm not talking about no pseudo benefit. You know what I mean? No pseudo benefit. Like real benefit. Where you see change happen in the community. You know what I mean? Where you see, us having things tangible that we can take and we can give the generation that we could point at somebody right now and say, well, yeah, that guy was a member of whatever organization and they have, farm somewhere, you know what I mean? That's theirs, not some they're mortgaging or leasing or whatever. It's theirs, own. You know what I mean? Right? It ain't happening.
Well, what about the thing in Quebec about the whole thing about Morocco and there? You know what I mean? I see online how they are like their own Moroccan organization, but it didn't look like any of the media or anything.
No, I gotta check that out. I didn't hear about that. For real. I never heard about that. That's something to check out. You got that info. Send that over. That's something to check out. Because the other thing too is that, Quebec is quote unquote a sovereign state. They're not part of Canada. They do their, they have their own language, they have their own flag and all that. right? So that could be a place where other free radicals want to go and, you know, chill, house themselves there because they don't have to deal with, you know.
Not Moorish.
Right. Well, I mean, you know,
The Moorish in Quebec right now.
yeah, but it's because they're black.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what, right? Yeah. You know, but if they change that around, you know, because remember too that the fleur de lis on the Quebec flag, they used to brand us with that. You know, in the Code Noir, right? In the Code Noir, it talks about branding quote unquote slaves with that symbol that looks like the arrowhead or whatever, right? Branding us with that. So we already know that that they're not down with us being over there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like what you're saying is right and exact. You know, it's a history already. You know, and us, you know, the Code Noir is where they even come up with the Christian Black Code. You know, the Black Codes, Code Noir, the exact same policy. Yeah, yeah, it's the exact same policy, Inquisition policy. You know, and I mean that could also be a part of, you know, why they created that quote unquote sovereign nation of Quebec in order to still be able to practice these things freely. And nobody can't tell them nothing because they're a sovereign state. So, you know what I mean? We can do whatever we want over here. You know, you don't have
another layer.
just another layer, right? You know, we got probably like, I don't know, about 10 minutes left. Any more questions or comments or anything like that?
How about like making, if you're gonna sign a contract, can you make the person that you're gonna sign a contract on like the contract as well?
All right, exactly. All right. So if you, let's say, somebody's contracting with you, you have a right to have a contract to give to them too. And that's just a right. If I'm signing something for you, then you have to sign something for me. But you can't do that in the black, Negro, colored, whatever status. You have to be national in order to even make that claim, right? Like you can't be a slave or a minority and try to hold somebody else to a contract because minors can't make contracts. That's one of the, you know, like just do your research on the laws that govern contracts, and then you'll see, you know, who can make contracts, who can't make contracts, you know, what makes a contract legitimate, whatever, like more than the stuff that we read, right? And then that'll open you up more to things to look for, things to pay attention to when you're doing those contracts. Like if you, let's say you also have the right to alter a contract. So if somebody's contracting you and there's something that you don't like, you have a right to scratch that off. You know what I mean? No, they have a right to say, okay, well, I don't want to contract with you if, you know, if the contract is, you know what I mean, you know, I get your head if you don't pay, and you don't agree with that part, you scratch that part off, you know, they might just say, okay, well, you know, you want to contract with me because I want your head. Like, I'm not giving up until I get the head. You know, or they might try to alter, you know, okay, well, how about give me a ear or something like that. You know what I mean? You know, whatever. Once you're signing, it's a contract. You know, one thing you might want to write down, you want to write this down. What we did, we'll put this on the record again. We get this little stamp right here. Make a stamp, right? So the stamp says all rights reserved for full colon without prejudice UCC 1-103 UCC 1-308 and in brackets you can put 207. UCC 1-103, and UCC 1-308. And in brackets, you can put 207. And then anytime you sign, you just write that on the line, above the line, above whatever. Write that and then sign. Right? And then what you'll do is just Google UCC 1-103 and then Google UCC 1-308. And then it'll tell you what those are. And then why you're putting those down on the contract. But then what we did is we just made a stamp out of it, right? So you just make a stamp out of it. So then you just go and then you just stamp the paper. Because it makes it look a little bit more legitimate than you writing it on. Then it's way less time. Stamp, sign, bam, you go about your business. Right? And then that's one of the ways of starting to live within contracts. By reserving your rights on the contract before you even get into them. Right? And all that's just, it's no different than, Columbia Pictures. They're going to reserve their rights before they put out a film. You can't copy it. Nike's going to reserve their rights. You don't use their logo on some bootleg shoes and try to make $1 million saying it's Nike shoes. Right? CD, you're going to have all rights reserved on it, so you don't duplicate it and make $1 million off of the CD or whatever. So that's just standard. And also too, remember that when you have the right to know what your signature is. So they'll challenge you, like you talked to Brother Amori in the back, right? About how hard they challenge you when you reserve your rights. Because once you reserve your rights, you're basically letting them know that they're not playing fair, or you wouldn't need to reserve your rights on the contract, right? But when you start reserving your rights, know that people are going to back away from dealing with you. Because you're letting them know that I know that you guys are running a fraud, or I wouldn't have to reserve my rights on this contract.
It seems like we have to do it. It's kind of back on everybody else. On our own.
Yeah, that's where we would have been if we had followed Noble Drew Ali's program from 1913. You know what I mean? Noble Drew Ali came 1913 and told us from back then that we're not Negro black colors or whatever. 2013 now, 100 years later, there's still people defending that they're black people and that they're Negro people and that they're colored people and it's segregation and we wanna be up we're on our own school. But then when they give you your own school, it's in somebody else's school, right? And somebody else's curriculum, right? And they're not teaching you anything that you can't get in regular school. All they do is just change your dress code, make you look, Afrocentric or whatever. You know what I mean? But they're teaching you the same garbage that you get in regular school. Not teaching you nothing to, have young people be independent and do like what you're saying. We have our own stuff so that we don't have to go to them for anything. They're teaching them to just continue being good slaves or whatever, just in dashikis now. Slaves in dashikis and turbans. Right? Yeah. Right? Nothing substantial. Nothing substantial. And then this is why, we have the institution here. Because, all this information that we're going through, you're not getting this anywhere out there. And if you do get it, there's probably going to be some, $500,000 fees attached to it or whatever. You get a certificate in the end, a smiley face on the certificate and all that. And still, you're going to have all that information, but then your status is going to be black. So you still can't use the information. You'll probably end up going out there and doing more damage to yourself than good. Because the first, just like we were talking about with contracts, first thing is knowing who's behind this contract. First thing, who? Just like 5W. Who? That's the first thing. You want to know what, you want to know when, you want to know who first, before anything else. And then when you know who, then you could go into other stuff or whatever. But we have to know who we are first, before we ask them who they are. Because once we ask them who they are and we don't know who we are, like we're done, right? Moose or yoke or whatever, and trust me, you're gonna be in somebody's field picking some, guaranteed, you know. But then again, you know, we're 100 years behind, so you know, let's not get mad, get emotional, and all that stuff. Just recognize that certain people didn't do what they were supposed to do, so we got extra work to do now because certain people, you know, let the field, you know, let the soil get dry. They didn't water it. They didn't take care of the ground. Now we got, you know, we got to go there now, dig up all these weeds and, you know, do extra work on this ground to make it fertile again. And then we got to plant too on top of that. And then we got to reap on top of that because, you know, we should have had like we should have had warehouses and all that stuff by now. With everything that we need for all these communities around here that talking about, well, you know, landlords not doing this and not doing that. Everybody in that building should have been trained from years ago. That, oh yeah, you leaking, something leaking, oh yeah, call no landlord for nothing. You need a landlord for it. You know, fire all those guys. You know what I mean? Everybody make claims, everybody. Uniform disclaimer in the building that, yo, you know what, we're claiming this building, this is our building now because, you know, we're the only ones that take care of it. Why am I paying you guys $1,500 or whatever rent when you guys don't do nothing on it? I'm paying the bill guys, I'm paying the phone guys, I'm paying the internet guys, and I'm paying you guys, and you guys don't even do nothing? And then when I call, it's like 5 hours, 6 hours, 4 days to just get this little screw tightened right here. There's water dripping in the nighttime, keeping me up all night. You know, when they could just call the neighbor who's a plumber. And everybody knows that he's a plumber, man has the truck outside or whatever. But he's working for somebody else. And all his times with Joe's Plumbing, when that guy could make his money just going from the building, from the first floor to the 12th floor, fixing everybody's problems. You know what I mean? No different than, you know, 50 people in a Burger King. You know, everybody in the hood working at McDonald's. They could all come together, start their own restaurant, feed the hood. Like if we go to all these restaurants around here, all these restaurants up and down Eglinton, right? All these people got restaurants, right? All those people could get together. All these so-called black businesses, all of them could get together. They could buy Eglinton, but they don't want to do that. They want to keep supporting this beast system that's about to fall. You know? And it's that simple. It's that easy. You know, we can have our own school. Matter of fact, we had our own school, many of them. And then everybody heard about the free black school. And then they took their youths out of the real Afrocentric school to go put their children in some fake Afrocentric school run by the B system. And then say that, yeah, we're conscious and we're Afrocentric and all that when you just caused 5, 6 independent quote unquote black African schools to shut down so you guys could get a free school where you know you get what you pay for and everybody knows you get what you pay for. Nobody's not taking no free sneakers when they go to Nike or whatever. They're paying their $500 because they know they need the jump man. You know what I'm saying? You know, they need the swoosh. They need the 3 stripes. You know, they need the freaking Puma. You know what I mean? They're not gonna pay no $500 for no links and bullets or whatever. Like, you know, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? So there's no question. That's it. No comment. All right. So we'll just close out the prayer as usual. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation.
and my salvation.
By night
By night
and by day,
and by day,
through his and holy prophet,
with the holy prophet,
Noble Ali.
Contractual,
Islam,
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 Islam.
Islam.
Peace.
The con-
Peace. Yeah, you want me?